In the foregoing lesson, certain presentations were made which included the tearing down of the old and relative dogmas, creeds, thought patterns, etc. Like the farmer who plows the soil, preparing it for the new crop, you too must prepare the soil in your own dimension of understanding, so that the first seeds of wisdom may be planted there, and which will eventually grow into fulfillment, bringing you the much desired and long sought after fruit of life. The first tiny seed we shall plant will be the universal concept of energy. Einstein and nuclear physicists have destroyed the illusion of mass. Actually, you and the world about you are solid only as a matter of reactive comparisons, which always originate and function when mass is so associated with other various mass proportions. To understand this reactive principle, mass must be thoroughly understood as constituting aggregates of atoms. Atoms are more or less complex solar systems of energy. Therefore, your home, your body, etc., all things about you are really not solid at all, but are all composed of these same energy forms called atoms. In the higher spiritual worlds, people do not have these same reactive mass formations called atoms, nor do they function in a physical body, but instead have a pulsing, glowing energy body, and all daily interpolations of life are carried on solely as a function of the mind, a vastly expanded usage of psychokinetics. In other words, people construct their homes, cities, clothing, and all artifacts of life from out the great universal substance, energy, which is drawn into form and consciousness by these more advanced people. The manner and form in which they do this is, of course, quite beyond the realm of any earth understanding. However, you can easily see that if you wish to become one of these advanced personalities, then you must learn how to do these things for yourself, for life would be quite impossible for you in such places if you do not comprehend that way of life. While it may at first appear impossible to construct clothing or other things by the mind using pure energy, just remember that Earth people have, in a sense, been doing the same thing since history began, for the clothing on your body is pure energy, as fibers taken from the plants or animals, or even synthesized, and it is still a composite of energy particles known as atoms. However, atoms are only one of the more immediate objectives with which we must familiarize ourselves, for that vast infinite macrocosm must also be understood in a somewhat different, but even more expanded way. That is, understanding energy as it exists in a pure dynamic form. Energy atoms representing the static or seemingly motionless energy forms, actually as atoms, are pure energy. They contain the same movement and forms of dynamic energy, but contain in a very small dimension. To understand dynamic or any kind of energy, we must first begin with a sine wave. This is simply an up and down wave-like motion which travels from source to its terminating point. This is called oscillation or vibration. A sine wave always has two polarities, positive and negative, and in the manner common expression of reversal from negative to positive, and from positive to negative, etc., the sine wave expresses its own bit of particular information. Sine waves are compatible or incompatible on the basis of frequency, or the number of up and down motions per second. This frequency time is called a phase or a cycle. In the third or earth dimension, such a sine wave frequency phase travels an approximate 1.5 circle, or 180 degrees. In the fourth or adjoining dimension, a cycle is a complete circle. This up and down motion of energy is much like the waves traveling on the surface of the ocean. Only the water moves up and down, transferring energy from one group of water atoms to the next. In this process, all various interpolations of life in your present world come to you as sine waves. Sight and sound are direct connotations, while smell, feeling, and taste are resolved into sine waves, energies, which are carried by various nerves to the brain. Thus, you see, you are, in a sense, an electronic instrument. Your 5 senses function much the same way as a common voltmeter used by the scientist. It is also very important to remember that various energy waveforms are either compatible or incompatible to other energy sine waveforms on the basis of their frequency, or the number of times they repeat their up and down motion in a given length of time. When 2 or more sine waves are compatible, they oscillate together and are like 2 people dancing a jig. And these same 2 people, when they get married, have children, so will these 2 waveforms oscillate together and have children. This is a regenerating process which creates a progeny known scientifically as harmonics. Harmonics are generated as multiples of approximately 2 plus. Like all children, these harmonics bear many characteristics of the parents. These characteristics we have called information. Like people, all sine waves and their forms are not plain, simple, up and down, snake-like motions. Sine waves can be hunchback, or they may be limp. In other words, carry various distortions, just as do people. Also, like people, sine waves carry loads. A mother squaw carries her baby papoose on her back. A sine wave can also carry 1 or more papooses, and which do not necessarily come from the same source. For instance, the sine wave which comes from television, a broadcasting station, carries 4 papooses, or other waveforms. These are the electronic sine waves, which produce the sound waves, sight, or the picture waves, video, and 2 other separate waves which synchronize or lock the picture on your set in a correct horizontal and vertical position. Some energy waves travel very swiftly. Light, radio, television waves, etc., all travel about 186,000 miles per second, or they can travel around the Earth 8 times in this same second. In the 4th dimension, energy waves do not travel from point to point as do the 3rd or Earth dimensional energy waves. By looking at the diagram in the 2nd lesson course book, you will see that all information which is carried by a waveform is a complete unit of expression. And as it is complete, it has no beginning or terminating point. Therefore, this energy wave, which carries this information, will travel or oscillate in a complete circle, or 360 degrees. It can be then said that time is merged, or is a part of this fourth dimensional wave, whereas in the third dimension, time becomes separated as the wave carries its information from its beginning to its terminating point. This concept is what Einstein tried to explain in his various theories, such as the space-time continuum and curved space theory, etc. However, in all cases, energy waves express the same basic characteristics, and in our various life dispensations on Earth, these can all be considered as constant interpretations. Interpretations and regenerations of the vast cosmic and interdimensional resurgence of various energy configurations, all of which are part of the infinite creative mind. At this point, we cannot neglect the atom, for it plays an important part in our understanding. Atoms are very small. About 200,000 of them could be placed upon the end of a pin and could not be seen with the naked eye. Several or more atoms can make a molecule. A number of molecules can make a cell or particle. However, all atoms function by the same principles, which are found governing sine waves. As an atom is a composite bit of energy, it has within itself a large number of wave forms. Some of these are joined together at certain spots, parallaxes, and these are joined places are called electrons, positrons, and neutrons by the scientist. Some atoms are comparatively simple, having only a single neutron and a proton. Others are very complex and have several hundred of these various kinds of negative and positive joined places, which the scientist thinks are particles, but which, if the atom could be seen in slow motion, would be a very complex structure of energy waveforms, which is the terminating point of a vortex of energy from the fourth dimension. These constituents are also revolving swiftly around in their respective orbits. In this varied joining and revolving process, they recreate other harmonic waves which are broadcast in the space about them. These broadcast energy waves form an electromagnetic field. Some of these magnetic fields are compatible to other similar electromagnetic fields with which they oscillate, or they may be incompatible to other electromagnetic fields, and oscillation does not occur. A large group of compatible atoms making up molecules or cells or particles can therefore be completely reactive against another group of atoms, cells, particles, and so forth, if their frequency is different. This is the determinant concept of mass, and explains why you cannot walk through the walls of your house, while the television sine wave bearing sound pulses and the picture pulses can pass through the wall just as if it were not there. Briefly then, and in other words, the determinate reactive qualities of all mass substances are determined within the base plane frequency rate of the atom, which generates the electromagnetic field with a similar or dissimilar base plane rate frequency. Atoms present a great enigma to our present-day scientists. He knows there are vast potentials of energy in atoms, but he does not know how it arrived there or from whence it came. In fact, he does not know the basic concept of creation, which is, all such known energy forms come from and are supported from higher and presently unknown dimensions. The atomic power in a single penny is about 100,000 horsepower, and there is more atomic energy in a glass of water than can be generated by Niagara Falls in 24 hours. 1 pound of coal, atomically speaking, could power the largest battleship completely around the world. Of course, these figures are only relative, and inasmuch as science is just beginning to learn of these vast potentials of energy, these figures so quoted from existing documentaries may change. However, the basic principles explained in these texts are inviolate, for they are the basic principles of creation. An atom, like all other things, is merely an interdimensional extension. In other words, all atoms form a terminating point for this great interdimensional power which transcends the wildest reaches of the imagination. No human mind could possibly envision or comprehend even a small portion of this vast, infinite macrocosm. The interplay of interdimensional energies is carried out through a certain pattern. This is called cyclic motion, and which, incidentally, thoroughly agrees with Einstein, or vice versa. In these fourth, fifth, sixth, and so forth dimensions, time is an integrated factor of motion. In the third dimension, time is separated from emotional form in the transduction of various third-dimensional forms, whereas in the fourth-dimensional motion, all forms resolve themselves into cycles without terminating points, thus expressing a continuous, oscillating continuity. These fourth dimensions can therefore be pictured as vast, infinitely filled sea of energy, all made up of vortexes of energy, some infinitely large, making up the starting places of universes, others infinitely small, forming in their center a core of energy called an atom. All of these interdimensional vortexes are strongly connected through various sympathetic harmonic patterns which express themselves in one common form called magnetic lines of force. Grasping this great and infinite concept will give you a basic idea as to how a universe and a planetary system or an atom is formed and was so created. This understanding will also place you far in advance of any presently known scientific dispensations. Likewise, you can see the tremendous importance that this knowledge will be to you in forming your new life. Jesus could not have walked upon the waters, calmed the waves, or performed the many miracles, etc., without this knowledge, no more than you can hope to usurp a false position in some heavenly place without this knowledge. For that heavenly place exists and is made possible by the interdimensional creative intelligence which has just been described to you.
For more information on the Unarius Educational Foundation, call 619-444-7062 or look us up online at www.unarius.org. Para más información en español, llame al 619-390-6500.